The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Wednesday.
It is the Wednesday after the council meeting.
The council meeting, that's right. And for once, they asked some very good questions, and they kind of put our city administrator again in a box, and she, as usual, tried to worm her way out. But the fact was that there were a lot of things about this building that weren't being divulged. Also, we were never told that they were going to use employee mitigation fund monies, which that's not what mitigation funds are for. So again, the city was less than transparent and less than truthful when they had their own agenda, as usual. So that will be continued, because I am sure that we will discuss this at an IAC meeting, and I will then go on record again saying that I am firmly in favor of the clinic. We will save millions and millions of dollars for the city and for the employees in health care. However, there's no way they're getting any of my money to pay for that building. They're going to save millions. They've already made $15 million in additional co-pays from employees. They've put enough of a burden, and that mitigation fund is there to ease that burden. So, you know what I can tell them? They can rent rooms out if they want, if they buy the building. Then they can do anything they want with it. But if I'm putting in any money, I want part of that rent. So that's the bottom line.
I can hear you there. It was just very interesting because we had a citizen last night who came forward and was speaking about the fact that the company that the city wants to hire to run or propagate this clinic, this health center, really doesn't have much experience with civic
Municipalities?
or municipalities.
Yeah.
And they're big on, airlines and big corporate offices and that type of situation, but they're not too clear on their, how they handle city employees, which I think is a major issue for a lot of people, because it is a different health environment when you're dealing with municipal workers, because you have budgets, you have expenditures. You really have to look at things. And I agree that these clinics may indeed save money to the city worker and the retiree, which I'm all for. But how was this company chosen? Was there an RFP? Did we look at other companies? I know that several local companies exist that do that. As a matter of fact, I received a phone call yesterday while I was in a meeting from a local hospital group. No, not Auschwitz. Asking if I'd be interested in looking at such a program. So, do I want to work there? I don't think so. But again, when there are other companies that are local that are doing it, shouldn't we seriously be considering all options? The one thing that this citizen brought forward, though, is the fact that her private insurance company, not the city's, because she's a private citizen, actually reimburses her for her gym memberships, her healthcare center fees. Why can't Fall River do that? Oh, wait, that would make too much sense. That's right.
Well,
That's why we don't
let me just clarify one point, CJ. There was a very good vetting process there. I was, the IEC, Joe Castro did a lot of work. He went down to Nashville and looked at numbers. We saw presentations. However, what you talked about, the city never gives money back to the employees. They don't know how to take it. They don't know. They're just like the only thing they know how to do from the taxpayer is take money. They don't know how to ever give the taxpayer a break or the employees a break. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I brought that up maybe 4 or 5 months ago. There was a segment on NBC National News about a clinic and about a community that actually reimbursed people if they shopped around, and there's a website and an app for it, and I even brought it to the IEC meeting. And this woman got a procedure that was going to cost, I don't know, $14,000 in a hospital setting, and she ended up getting it for like $3,000 or $4,000 in this clinic setting, and they actually gave her like $1,000. They gave her money back for doing that. And, you know, I brought that idea in front of the IEC, but of course the city doesn't want to hear it because the city doesn't care. You know, they complain all the time about health care, but anytime you bring up anything that, you know, forget it. You know, just like, where's the money? You know, they don't know where half the money is. The reality is the city employees, and more expressly the retirees, are considered a noose around the city's neck.
Ooh,
And that was a statement made by a city official who has already made a disparaging remark about retirees. She forgets that those retirees she's talking about gave hundreds of thousands of years of service to this community.
Not that that means anything.
It doesn't mean a damn thing to her, because she just came on board. She'll put in a few years, and then she'll collect her paycheck, stick it in her carpet bag, and run wherever she's going to run next.
Now, I wonder if that might be the same individual.
And get her 3 jobs, you know, get her 3 new jobs, because now she's in with the city administration. So, you know, this idea is a good idea, and it's a great way to go. I'm not too optimistic about when it's ever going to happen, because we have one problem. We have one problematic factor in this equation, and it's called the city of Fall River.
Yeah, well, they tend to be the big problem in everything. And, you know, if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong on this too, please. The city was actually looking at the old Bank Street Armory to make that this health center, which
Yes.
they already own, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
So why are we going to buy a building for $250,000 that needs $500,000 or more in repairs and refurbishment when we already have a building that's in the same situation?
Yeah, well, maybe because they couldn't find office space so they could get the rentals for office space.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And the other big kicker on this whole thing is this. When you're looking at this package, I want the people of Fall River to remember, we sell buildings for $5,000 that are worth a hell of a lot more, that need almost as much work, and we sell them for $5,000. But we, as a city, are willing to go pay $250,000 for buildings that need even more work. So my question is this: who is JLD LLC?
Wow, that's a lot of letters.
Or JDL LLC? Who are they, and what connection to the mayor, the administration, and the various individuals in administrative positions at Fall River is the connections?
Well,
I mean, I've looked, you know, we always say follow the money, and I've looked at some of the campaign contributions. So far, not a whole heck of a lot is pointing towards a lot of favoritism towards anyone. But you and I both know, for a building like that they haven't been able to dump for ages,
yep.
and I've actually been inside that building, so has other realtors. I believe Cliff Ponte may have been in the building or has reviewed some of the reports on the building. That building's not worth $1.79.
Yeah, believe me. The reality is that building abuts Tony Cadero's property. If that building was worth 3 cents,
He would have bought it.
Cadero would have bought it.
Yeah, you know, and
that's the reality of the
Yeah.
situation. The fact is that the driveway belongs to Cadero, and he owns just about everything in the downtown area. And I'm sure $240,000 is not going to break him. And the fact is, if that building was worth a damn, the fact is that Cadero would have bought the building.
And you know, the big problem also with that building is the fact that you got a river that runs right under it. So,
Yeah, when I was a little kid, I used to watch that river. There was a waterfall
Yeah.
behind that building,
Yeah.
actually, the Quequechan River.
yeah, and they had to build concrete walls around it. So,
Yeah, but again, we have a mystery, and we know there have been a lot of situations in Fall River where we can trace back to campaign contributors who have gotten very lucrative contracts.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes exclusivity. There's a question in the housing authority. There's a question in other areas of individuals getting all the work in the housing authority
oh yeah,
when it used to be on a rotating list and shared among other businesses that employ Fall River people. But now there are individual companies that are getting 100% of the work in the housing
and
authority.
that's not only existing.
And
in the
that to me, I mean, it deserves an investigation because, the fact is we know who it is in the housing authority and we know what the connection was to a former mayor.
Right. And we know on the city side, the same situation's occurring.
Yep.
Okay? Because they used to have a rotating list for emergencies where they go in, board up a building, do
Yep.
all of that. And now it seems that one construction firm or contractor or handyman or whatever it may be is getting all of that.
Yep.
So if that's the case, then it had to go out for an RFP, which doesn't exist. Oh, that doesn't exist. So,
Well, look, this is Fall River. We don't care about the law when it gets in our way. We only worry about the law when it suits us. I think Councilor Ponte asked Kathy Ann Viveris if she had a written recommendation from the Insurance Advisory Committee, as stipulated in Section 3 of Chapter 32B. And he actually read the section that said you need it in writing. And you know what her answer was? No. Oh, it's only the law.
Right.
Why should we actually come before the council and say that the IAC is in favor of this purchase, which I don't think I ever voted on any particular building. I am 100% in favor of the idea of getting a clinic that's going to reduce healthcare costs. However, I'm not in the real estate business, and I am not gonna vote to spend any employee money in the real estate business. The city is gonna save millions and millions of dollars in healthcare. Let them buy the building and let them renovate the building, and then they can rent anything they want because it's their building. But if I can tell you one thing, as I said before, if they're using some of my money to buy that building and they're getting rents, I want a piece of that action.
There you
because
go.
it's like me telling you, CJ, let's split the cost of a 6-decker, and you say, okay, and then I say, but I'm keeping all the rents. You know what you're going to tell me?
yeah, and it's not going to be Merry Christmas.
That's right.
Well, and then last night the city council finally opened their eyes. The EMS contract was brought before them, and they all asked the question, why? We don't have any bargaining authority. Why is this being brought here? Oh, wait a minute, that's right, because the law says it must be. And City Councilor Ray Mitchell asked for an opinion saying that it must be. Why? And Chip, I don't know how many times we've said this. They must appropriate the money.
Yeah, but
And if they don't appropriate the money, the contract goes back to bargaining, and they got to redo the whole thing.
that's right. What did we say here? Attleboro.
Attleboro, exactly.
We even gave him an example of why the binding arbitration is only binding on the mayor to present to the council.
That's right.
If the council doesn't appropriate the money, the contract is null and void. You have to renegotiate. And I've told him that. I've been there, done that. We won 2 arbitrations against the city for collective bargaining agreements, and they were approved by the city council. However, city council approval was mandatory in order to secure the contract.
Right, yeah.
But now the city council, I ran it, I've negotiated, I don't know how many contracts with the city. I ran the union for 24 years. I negotiated an awful lot of collective bargaining agreements, some of them through JLMC, some of them through normal negotiations. But, we never had this problem years ago. It's amazing how they've gotten dumber. It's like high school students that have 25,000 word, their vocabularies have 25,000 fewer words in their vocabulary
Yeah.
because, we're dumbing down the entire, now even our city government has forgotten the processes because they've ignored them for so long, they forgot.
Well, I just thought it was funny, and now I'm still questioning on whether or not they actually approved the contract. Because Gary Howiak, the corporate counsel for the city, turned around and said, well, there's no significant change or there's no change in the amount budgeted previously in this contract, as there's no raises, et cetera, et cetera. I guess that's all going to be taken up in the second and third years. So you really don't need to take a vote, is what I believe was said. Now, that means that this contract hasn't been appropriated on, because the appropriations were on the previous contract under what I believe is called the evergreen clauses.
Yep, evergreen.
Okay? So, in essence, if the city council did not appropriate yesterday for this contract, come July, if they're saying we got to cut this and we got to cut that, they may just turn around and say, no, we're just not going to fund this. And they'll say, oh, you can't because you already, no, we never voted on it. We never appropriated anything.
Yeah, this is kind of an odd thing. You know, that happened to me numerous times. In the old days, what we used to do is we had a one-year contract, and that 1 year had expired already, and it was, you know, you're at the end of the collective bargaining cycle, you sign a 1 year contract for zero, and then you begin, because there's a 3-year maximum limit on collective bargaining agreements under Chapter 150E of the Massachusetts General Laws. So what we used to do is we'd get a 1 year contract, and then we'd go into a 3-year contract. And then that money would have to be appropriated and by the council. That's an extra piece. It's kind of like a dangling participle. That's the money part is not technically part of the process, but it is in a way that if you don't have the money, you don't get the contract. That's what happened in Attleboro. You go to the JLMC, you get an award. The award is mandated on the mayor. The expenditure isn't mandated because, as we've said for like 80 billion times on this show, the city council holds the purse strings. They are the legislative arm of this government, and they hold the money. So even though the statute under 150E and the JLMC provides a mechanism for settling impasses on collective bargaining agreements, it's only binding to the point where the mayor and the city go to an arbitrator, and the union, I'm sorry, go to an arbitrator, you get an arbitrator's award, and now it is mandatory. The mayor is legally bound to present it to the city council. However, the city council is not legally bound by that law to approve said contract, and if they don't, it makes the contract null and void, because you can't give somebody a pay raise if the city council doesn't give you the money, i.e. Attleboro. That's what happened in Attleboro many years ago. They got a JLMC award. The mayor presented it to the city council of Attleboro, and the city council of Attleboro shot it down, and they went back into negotiations, and it took almost 5 years to secure a contract. So what they're doing now is setting up a scenario where at next year's budget, not that it will happen, but theoretically, the city council could turn around and say, hey, we don't have the money. We're not going to fund the pay raise in this contract. And guess what? The contract is now, you got a problem. The contract is in effect technically for a year. But now the second and third year of that contract may or may not be funded. Not a good way to run it. They should have signed a 1 year contract, put that to bed, signed another contract for next year, and then had the city council debate that. And, you know, but the fact is that, look, they don't care. They just, you know, it's election time. He wants to clean up as many contracts as he can, because the fact is, when you got collective bargaining agreements out there unsettled, you've got people that are going to be upset and not vote for you.
And this is the nature of the beast. Well,
politics.
I guess the city council did something right.
Yep.
The Fall River trash trucks actually netted $1 million at the auction. And I think the last bid was $920,000. And it had gone from like 1.3 down to 920,000. And now it seems that
Wow.
we're going to get that money.
Yeah, well, I mean, so much for the mayor's due diligence, huh? We got a few more bucks.
Guess so. I guess he's making, you know, he's making lemonade out of the lemons, because he was going to get rid of them, and now the city council said, no, we want to auction them. They ended up auctioning them, and guess what? They got the money.
Yeah,
but again, remember, this is still a failure. Even though it's a win, it's a failure. Why? Because we still owe $5 million on the trucks.
That's right.
Net loss, $4 million.
I see here in the article, Mayor James LaCarrere II, or the two as we lovingly call him, the two, said that more than 1.02 million will be wired to the city, sold off the trucks. He also didn't add to that. By the way, that's more than I was going to get for him. And thank you, City Councilor Cliff Ponte. But that isn't in the article because, let's face it, he's a politician.
That's right. So
he's going to take credit for everything he does and everybody else in the city does.
Yeah, that's it, because that's the way it works. We have a Fall River Mill, which is owned by Pat Todd, by the way, that's now being eyed for a marijuana company. Because remember, tomorrow becomes Massachusetts 420 Day for 24 hours, because tomorrow is the day that the recreational marijuana law goes into effect, providing that the Governor's Council at noon ratifies the voters' ballot question. So, and I'm quite sure it will go through without a problem. But it's very interesting because they're going to acquire that building. They plan on not removing anyone that's currently in there. I guess they want to keep their customers happy.
Yeah, and they'll be happy after they get the product. So.
And the mayor did sign a non-opposition agreement for this company, and it will be located at 1 West Street. Across the street from there is that mill that burnt down not that long ago. So it's going to be interesting to see how this works out. According to former Mayor Will Flanagan, it's a great location. Of course, it's easy highway access. Get real. You're not going to be able to do much over there. You can't do much with it now. I mean, I think we have a dialysis center down at the bottom of that
yeah,
street.
that's still there.
I don't know. I think it used to be.
Used to be down there, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's not a whole heck of a lot of stuff down there. There is a housing, an old mill that was converted into housing.
Yeah.
It used to be high-end housing. I don't know what it is now.
And I got to say one thing about this. Let's shout out to Will. Hey, Will. We're expecting the thank you card for recalling you because we got you out of the mayor's office, and now you're going to make millions representing pot companies.
That's it.
So you're welcome.
So we want our share.
You're welcome.
And the other issue that just came up is the fact that Fall River employers don't know what they can or cannot do with their employees who may be under the influence of marijuana. Because there's never been a case that's been upheld anywhere in Mass or anywhere else regarding this. So can the employer put a prohibition? Can they say drug testing is required and then you show up positive for recreational marijuana use, you're not getting the job? It's legal in Mass, but it is not legal federally. Now, according to Colorado law, case law, I should say, they ruled that employers can say that marijuana use across the board is not acceptable and you cannot be hired or you can be terminated for marijuana use because federal law still has it classified as illegal, even though state law says it's okay. So, lawyers are recommending that you be very careful on this.
Yeah, so are police departments because they're, unlike alcohol, which they have breathalyzers and they have a lot of testing for, all they can do is find out if you have the product in your blood. However, how it affects individuals varies from individual to individuals.
Exactly.
So there's no threshold here. So the police and drivers are going to have problems because, to me, this is not a good thing. I was never in favor of it because the fact is, enough of them are driving impaired now. Now, if it's legal, and then the problem with police departments are going to face is, can they actually, and I saw one police department, I think it was Westwood, the police chief said, well, we're going to take them off the road basically and put them in jail for the night and let the courts do what they want with it later, but we're not going to allow someone to drive when we feel they're impaired. And this is a problem because they're never ever going to probably, until they come up with some criteria, they're never ever going to get a case found in the police department's favor because they're going to say, well, this, you say he's impaired, he says he wasn't, there's no threshold for this.
Yep.
And it's gonna be problematic from a safety point of view,
And
too.
just remember, you can't smoke while you're driving, and you can't have an open container of marijuana in your vehicle.
But can you eat marijuana brownies while you're driving? I don't know.
Maybe. Who knows?
I don't know. Who knows?
Well, it's been announced. The state police have decided that they're not going to take your shenanigans anymore. It is winter in New England. And with the last snow, the state police has decided that if you don't clean your vehicle off and you're driving around with 6 inches of snow on your roof, you're getting a ticket. You are getting a ticket. And as a matter of fact, the Massachusetts State Police are tired of seeing this and may have found a loophole to find motorists who failed to properly remove all snow and ice from their cars. Someone could be facing a $250 fine for not securing a load on a vehicle. They've already begun handing out tickets to people. So let your families know. Not a good thing. How many people have left their driveways with snow and ice on their vehicle because it takes too long, or they need help and they don't have time? So just remember, those blue lights may get turned on if you're driving around, especially if that police officer behind you gets a windshield full of snow.
Yeah, and I'm reading this last article here, the area employees, and our boy Rob the Messiah Million is saying, I like the word perplexity. It's kind of nice. It's an issue of concern and perplexity for business owners. Well, it is perplexing. And Carl Garcia said he said an employer can forbid employees from using marijuana at work or coming to work high. But then again, can he really? Because we just said the police can't even accuse you of being high. So if somebody comes to work and he says, well, I think you're high, I'm going to fire you, and he said, I wasn't high, now we have to, if they have a prohibition against using marijuana at all, then again, who knows? We've got some. I think this is going to see a lot of legal challenges over the next few years, unfortunately.
I think there are going to be attorneys that specialize in marijuana defense.
Yeah, like I said, Will, you're welcome.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, they want to take Massachusetts out of the Democratic run, where at 8 p.m. when the polls close on a presidential election, they say, and we're giving Massachusetts to the Democratic candidate, Hillary Clinton or whoever the Democrat may be, because they want to change how the Electoral College is put in office here in Massachusetts. It's going to be interesting. They are going to take one from each county who will represent the popular vote in that county. So if your county voted Trump, that Electoral College member would be a Trump supporter. And if your county voted Hillary, your county would be a Hillary supporter. And there'll be 2 at-large candidates, because we have 13 delegates, 13 votes. 2 would be at large, representing the entire state's popular vote. So this could do a shift to make Massachusetts a swing state. But one thing it will do is presidential candidates will not start spending money in Massachusetts.
Well, let's see if that actually comes to fruition.
Because we've got a Democratic House and Senate that don't want to change that.
Exactly. That's the problem. The politics, they never change anything unless it's to their benefit. It's like when we talked about electing judges, and they went, you can't do that. Well, they do in other states, and they made sure we couldn't. And the legislature will protect their own. We've got a Democratic legislature. But, the reality is, what good is it? We discussed this. We have some people in this nation today in the Electoral College who refuse to vote as an electoral member. They said, I have to vote my conscience. You did, you idiot, when you went to the polls. You're not there as yourself. You're there as an electoral member, and you're supposed to represent the vote of your state.
Not Massachusetts.
But no, the little babies have to pull their lip, and we didn't get what we want, and we're entitled.
Exactly. Hey, have a great weekend. We'll see you on Friday. And remember,
stay angry, remember. And whatever you do, don't put a bid in on that clinic.